Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poison in their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. Politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that role to the poor. Lord, yeah. Time will tell on their power minds, making war just for fun, treating people just like pawns in chess. Wait till judgment day comes, oh Lord, yeah. Now in darkness, world stops turning, ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power, hand of God has struck the hour. Day of judgment, God is calling, on their knees the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for their sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there. And that there was a War Pigs, the cover from Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, done by Sarah King. That link is in all of the chats if you guys want to check that song out. One of my favorites, actually, one of my favorite versions of that song. And Sarah King does such a great job with that. And I mean, when I hear her voice in that song, it takes me to another place. I'll tell you that much. It reminds me why we do what we do and what humanity has really and truly been through, even just through the 20th century to current date, that There are establishments of institutions around this world who have sought to undermine our own individualized sovereignty, that have waged a war in the name of profit, and have eviscerated human rights around the world. And what we fight for every day is an end to that nonsense, to that madness. And that's why we elected people like Donald Trump to office, in the hopes that he would bring an end to this madness, that he would dismantle that power structure which has operated for so long on this planet. And, you know, I truly do believe that what we are witnessing right now, get that mic in front of the mouth here, what we are witnessing right now, the slow tempo that the Trump administration is taking, is the dismantling of that power structure. You know, if you look at this, I actually made some notes, you know, and I don't usually do that for a show. The system only works is if everybody plays along. And this is like a revelation when you understand that the network of globalists, the system that they were bringing about, the institutions that they utilize, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, all of the think tanks, all the NGOs that were integrated into this larger network that were bringing about this agenda, this new world order, right? This one world government that was not going to be for the people at all. It was going to be a technocratic slave system. That system only moves forward, only works, is if everybody plays the game, is if everybody plays along. And see, you can't do it without support from people. This is why we have SIACs and PSYOPs. This is why we have the psychological warfare in the information domain as being the primary and most important of them all. And if you watch what Donald Trump is doing, is not only is he dismantling the old system, and he's doing it one faction at a time. He's doing it one step at a time. He's going in there and he's removing one critical juncture after another to the globalist empire. But he's also showing the world that there's another way to do it. There's a better way to do it. There's another way to do it that benefits all people. That's why I voted for this man. That's why I stand and support President Donald J. Trump. Because I understand that the vision of the future is what we declare, is what we make of it. Is that if we sit around and do nothing, the world will go on like usual. These systems will find a way to subvert power and control back into their own hands, and then in 5 to 10 years, they will take over power and control all over again. But see, the only change that actually happens is the change in the mindset, in the paradigm of the human being, the understanding of what true freedom looks like. The understanding that there is a better way of doing things other than the same rudimentary process that's been done, that has declared wars on other nations for petty political indifference or economic trade deals or the control of land and resources. We are at a turning point in humanity, in history. And this can go either way. And I'm not saying that this is set and done. This can go either way. But it appears to me that the house of cards is collapsing. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit about this. There's what I would call a multi-pointed battle occurring right now. So you go back last week, we talked about Lara Logan, and we talk about the disclosures that happened on her podcast with the 2020 election fraud. Patrick Byrne, General Flynn directly involved in this, getting this information about how Venezuela, through various different surrogates, was operating in the United States through various different companies that had election voting systems that were stealing the votes by spooling up virtual machines within the RAM of these computers and then changing the vote tallies. And they were skimming off of basically red counties, removing a little bit here and adding a little bit there. And how this information got all the way up to Donald Trump and his campaign, went to Elon Musk, validated the information, and then somehow gets the Cyber Command to where 3 days before the 2020 election, Cyber Command initiates an operation and annihilates the computers in Serbia, in Belgrade, Serbia, that were running this software, stealing U.S. elections, allowing Donald Trump to legitimately win the 2024 election. Today, Patrick Byrne put out, Venezuela military intelligence general now sitting in New York prison writes a letter that Patrick Byrne was right about everything. And let me kind of read this if I can. And so this is Hugo Caraja Barrios, former director of military intelligence, 3-star general and deputy in the Venezuelan National Assembly to the American people. This is a letter he wrote. He's currently sitting in jail in New York. We can bring this up. My name is Hugo Caraja Barrios. For many years, I was a high-ranking member of the Venezuelan regime. I was a 3-star general trusted by both Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro, and served as director of military intelligence and a deputy in the National Assembly. Today, I sit in an American prison because I voluntarily pled guilty to the crimes charged against me, a narco-terrorism conspiracy. I write to atone by telling the full truth so that the United States can protect itself from the dangers I witnessed for so many years. I publicly broke with the Maduro regime in 2017 and fled my country, knowing that I faced criminal charges in the United States. In doing so, I became their enemy. Knowing the risk, I acted with the strongest conviction to dismantle Maduro's criminal regime and bring freedom to my country. Today, I see the need to address the American people about the reality of what the Venezuelan regime truly is and why President Trump's policies are not only correct, but absolutely necessary to the United States' national security. Narco-terrorism. I personally witnessed how Hugo Chavez's government became the criminal organization that is now run by Nicolas Maduro, Diosdado Cabello, and other senior regime officials. The purpose of this organization, now known as the Cartel of the Suns, is to weaponize drugs against the United States. The drugs that reached your cities through new routes were not accidents of corruption, nor just the work of an independent traffickers. They were deliberate policies coordinated by Venezuelan regimes against the United States. This plan was suggested by Cuban regime to Chavez in the mid-2000s and has been successfully executed with the help of the FARC, ELN, Cuban operatives, and Hezbollah. The regime has provided weapons, passports, and impunity for those terrorist organizations to operate freely from Venezuela against the United States. Tren de Aragua. I was present when decisions were made to organize and weaponize criminal gangs across Venezuela to protect the regime. Among them, the group known as Tren de Aragua. Chavez ordered the recruitment of the criminal leaders inside and outside prisons to defend their revolution in exchange for impunity. After Chavez died, Maduro expanded this strategy by exporting criminality and chaos abroad to target Venezuelan political exiles and artificially reduce crime statistics within Venezuela. Gang leaders were instructed to send thousands of members out of the country. This was coordinated through the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Prisons, the National Guard, and National Police Forces. Tren de Aragua became the most effective and fastest growing. When the Biden-Harris open border policy became widely known, they seized the opportunity to send these operatives into the United States. They now have obedient armed personnel on American soil. To finance their operations, they were explicitly instructed to continue kidnapping, extorting, and killing. Every crime they commit on your soil is an act ordered by the regime. Counterintelligence and espionage against the United States. I was present when the Russian intelligence came to Caracas to propose to Hugo Chavez the tapping of submarine internet cables that connect most of South America and the Caribbean islands with the United States for the purpose of penetrating the United States government communications. In 2015, I warned Maduro that allowing Russian intelligence to build and run a secret listening post in La Orachila Island would one day invite American bombs. He ignored me. For 20 years, the Venezuelan regime sent spies into your country. Many are still there, some disguised as members of the Venezuelan opposition. Cuban intelligence showed me their networks inside your naval base on the East Coast. They bragged about having sent thousands of spies over decades. Now some career politicians. U.S. diplomats and CIA officers were paid to assist Chavez and Maduro in remaining in power. These Americans acted as spies for Cuba and Venezuela, and some remain active to this day. Smartmatic in your elections. Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime, but soon derived into a tool to help keep the regime stay in power forever. I know this because I placed the head of IT of the National Elections Council, CNE, in his position, and he reported directly to me. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. This technology was later exported abroad, including to the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationships with election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. I do not claim that every election is stolen, but I state with certainty that elections can be rigged with the software and has been used to do so. People of the United States make no mistake about the threat posed by allowing narco-terrorist organizations to roam freely in the Caribbean and throughout Latin America, doing everything possible to harm the American people, to finance American anti-Semitism, Americanism across the continent, and to facilitate the operations of the other terrorist organizations and enemies of the United States within Venezuela and now within your borders. The regime I served is not merely hostile. It is at war with you, using drugs, gangs, espionage, and even your own democratic process as weapons. President Trump's policies against the Maduro criminal regime are not just justified, but necessary and proportionate to the threat. He may even be underestimating what the regime is prepared to do to hold on to power. They have contingency plans for every extreme scenario to ensure they never relinquish control. I absolutely support President Trump's policy towards Venezuela because it in itself defense in itself is self-defense, and he is acting based on the truth. I remain ready to provide additional details about the matters to the United States government. Hugo Carvajal Barrios. Wow. Now, he forgot to mention the CIA. He forgot to mention, well, he mentioned Cuban intelligence, which Cuban intelligence agency, CIA, right? He forgot to mention direct connections to MI6. He forgot to mention Chinese money and support, the Belt and Roads Initiative, how Russia integrated into this whole network as well. General Michael Flynn on the issue saying, all Americans must grasp the gravity of this moment and what this deposition, like letter below, means for the future of our republic. It's that severe of a warning. We cannot allow China or Russia or other major international Islamic terrorist networks to own beachfront property off of our southern border. Trump's actions to date have been sound, but given this new information, our POTUS must do some new soul searching with key members of his team. The blockbuster op-ed comes from a career spy at the top of the Venezuelan regime, where he served as the former head of military intelligence and in the National Assembly for nearly a decade. In it, he describes how U.S. diplomats and CIA officers were paid to assist Chavez and Maduro to remain in power. He also describes how the election software Smartmatic, developed in Venezuela, is used to alter elections. This technology was later exported abroad, including the United States. The letter is strategic warning from a man who spent decades inside the command structure of a hostile foreign power. Carvajal, I don't know how to say his name, Carvajal, confirms what many of us have stated repeatedly. The Maduro regime functions as a fully integrated narco-terrorist apparatus conducting the unconventional campaign inside of and against the United States of America. He details how Venezuela weaponized cocaine and coordinated operations with FARC, ELN, Cuban intelligence, and Hezbollah, how it built and exported violent criminal networks like Tren de Aragua into the United States, how its intelligence services infiltrated American institutions for more than 20 years, and how Smartmatic was developed to keep the regime in power forever. Carvajal now states that President Trump's policies were acts of essential national defense and that he is prepared to provide further classified information. We as Americans must demand more transparency about the role of rogue deep state elements inside our own government's national security system who have been or are currently protecting the Venezuelan regime and have been for decades. Now, I want you to also notice something here. Within this, now take a look at the left. Look at the Democrats. Look at the deep state and what they are doing, what they are protecting. Okay? When I was talking about a system, this power and control system, Venezuela is one part of that. They're in our hemisphere. They're very close to the United States of America. They have negotiations and deals with Cuba, which has massive influence over the southern part of the United States and Mexico. That their objective was to infiltrate the United States slowly but surely and to make sure and ensure that their people got into positions of power so that they could open the floodgates, so they could bring their armies through, so they could infiltrate the United States of America from inside. This is where we are at right now. This is why the U.S. Navy fleet is sitting in the Caribbean. This is why other global factions are shitting their pants. This is why you have the psyops going on with the Democrats as if these narco boats are just fishermen. Oh, do not obey direct orders from the commander-in-chief or illegal orders from the commander-in-chief. We have sanctuary cities set up to ensure that these illegal alien armies are fortified within their cities. That's the order of protection that they gave. You start to deep dive into this. You find out that governors, mayors, police commissioners and chiefs, attorney generals, state secretaries are all on the payroll with cartels and narco-terrorist organizations. You find that the narco-terrorist organizations and the cartels are simply an army that is being commanded by puppet masters far above them, that links to the Rothschilds and George Soros networks, London bankers, China is influenced, nation state influence. That this is much bigger and more serious than we could ever imagine. And the idea that we get it all figured out, it's all going to just be done in a day, is not the case. Earlier today, I posted a video of the Trump administration a few months ago. Actually, it was October, destroying a Venezuelan drug-carrying submarine. There's a reason why I published this video, and I said relevant soon. Alpha called me up today, and he kind of threw some things at me. We were kind of talking back and forth about some things. And let me go here. I had it all with my Nicolas Maduro stuff. We're going to get into the Nicolas Maduro stuff here in a minute. But Trump says U.S. forces destroyed a drug-carrying submarine headed for America loaded with fentanyl and other narcotics. I've said this before. Is there a Chinese nuclear submarine in the Caribbean? Did the United States cut them off? This is what the naval embargo is all about. Or maybe a Soviet-era diesel submarine is sitting in the Caribbean that is nuclear armed. Maybe there's nuclear weapons. I mean, the general just said that they have contingency plans to ensure they stay in power to the greatest extent. What does that mean? Does that mean that they're nuclear capable? Did some of their radical allies give them nuclear weapons? I think it's a good possibility. How are they integrated within the criminal networks? They are the criminal networks. You got to remember that deep state intelligence apparatus, the things that operate at the institutional level, the contractor level below the nation state intelligence level, that they are the ones that facilitate human trafficking, arms trafficking, and drug trafficking operations, because that's the black money budget. People like Jeffrey Epstein and George Soros were the middlemen that take that illicit money and move it into a laundering operation to clean that money. That's where they made the majority of their money. This goes back. I mean, if you want to truly get into the history of this, you got to go back to the 1800s, to the 19th century. You got to go back into the early 1800s when the Vatican was on the verge of bankruptcy. And they appeased to what's known as the black nobility family, the Colanas and the Orsinis. Who the Colanas and the Orsinis reached out to one of the top families in Europe at that time that was incredibly wealthy and controlled nations. They funded the Napoleonic Wars. Who were they? That was the Rothschild family. The Rothschilds, as well as another family known as the Sassoon family, came in and funded the Vatican, of which 50 years later, they would provide one of the first loans to the Treasury of the United States of America after the Organic, or right before the Organic Act of 1871, and that would have been the Holy See. The convergence at that point with the Rothschild family and the Sassoon family was very, very important. The reason I say it was important is because the Sassoon family, this was the head of the opium trade globally. They were the drug runners. They were the cartel back in the day. They were the pirates back in the day. They are the ones who brought all of the opium into China. They're the ones who spread it throughout the world under guise of the tea trade. They converged, married in, back and forth between the Rothschilds and the Sassoon family. They integrated into the Vatican. This is where you get family Y that derives from. It's no different today. It's the same families that rule and control these illicit operations. And they controlled politicians, heads of states, and countries for over 100 years to ensure that their criminal illicit activities could continue tax-free, as well as their influence and power does not get shedded. And so when I look at Maduro, when I look at Venezuela, when I look at what's happening there, I see an extension of exactly this. Why is George Soros directly affiliated and related with this? Why was Lord Mark Malloch Brown, who was one of the top people in the United Nations, who was one of the most senior people at the Open Society Foundations of George Soros, why was he CEO of Smartmatic from 2014 to 2020? When they said that Smartmatic technology expanded globally and abroad, what they meant is in that time frame, 2014 to 2020, is when that happened specifically under Lord Mark Malloch Brown. That is a George Soros-controlled actor. George Soros is directly associated and affiliated. This is where you get on the cue boards, Godfather 3. George Soros, he's Michael Corleone. He realized that the Vatican has a hidden hand, and that hidden hand holds all the power. And that hidden hand is the Sassoon and the Rothschild family, of which George Soros becomes that public expressive figure of them, doing their dirty work in the public business. He is that intermediary between illicit activities and moving money into legitimate business activities. Is it possible that there's a nuclear submarine with live ballistic missiles sitting in the Caribbean? Yeah, it absolutely is. Is that why the U.S. Navy is there? I think that the U.S. Navy was there, that they would probably have found it unless they're taking some incredible tactics to ensure that that doesn't happen. So let's go into the Maduro stuff, because I had a whole bunch of other stuff I wanted to cover before that. Well, actually, no. Let's go into the actions that the Trump administration is taking right now, and then we're going to come back into Venezuela. We're going to talk about Trump and Maduro, what I believe is happening right now, and why Trump keeps on kind of false starting this. Hey, we're gonna bomb the shit out of you. We're gonna bomb the shit out of you. We're gonna bomb the shit. We're gonna go on the land. Oh, we're gonna send special operation forces. I'm gonna tell you why that psyop is going on. So, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon is suing 14 states for hiding their voter rolls. All 50 states will be checked. This is huge. It is our duty and responsibility as states to hand that information over. Most of them have actually destroyed these voter rolls, which we know Georgia, we know Pennsylvania, we know Arizona actually did, which is in violation of federal law, which then brings about those Secretary of States of those states become liable for that. But now we're seeing the Assistant AG, Dillon, going out there and actually making headway. Why? Because they're going to be putting their hammer down on the 2020 election fraud. Because just like FISA-Gate expands its tentacles. Prior to FISA-Gate, the Obama administration and the crimes that they were trying to cover up with the soft coup, to 2018 to 2020 into 2024 and all the crimes that after. This is why it's a continuous seditious conspiracy. Donald Trump today on True Social, just an hour ago, the sleazebag governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, refuses to allow an elderly woman, Tina Peters, who was unfairly convicted of what the Democrats do, cheating on elections, out of jail. She was convicted for trying to stop Democrats from stealing Colorado votes in the election. She was preserving election records, which she was obligated to do under federal law. She has now served more than 1 year in jail and has 8 years to go. On top of that, on top of everything else, she is a cancer survivor, a lightweight governor who has allowed the state to go to hell trying to Nicaragua. Anyone should be ashamed of himself. Free Tina. And I think that he's hinting here that Governor Polis is on the payroll of Maduro, of Venezuela. Now, are there options that the Trump DOJ can do? they can name Tina Peters as a federally protected witness, and they can request to remove her out of state prison in the federal prison. I think that request has already been sent, but it's being denied by Governor Polis. Is there other things that they can do? They can withhold funding, all of these different things, but really it's out of the scope of the DOJ to do really anything at this point in time, unless there's exculpatory evidence that comes about basically showing that Tina Peters was innocent. And I think that that's what we're seeing right now with the 2020 evidence coming out, that if the evidence can promptly get to the DOJ and investigations can get open to validate what that general was saying, to validate what the former CIA guys, Gary and Ralph, were saying on Laura Logan's podcast, people like General Flynn and Patrick Burns, Cyber Command can provide an expose. If the DOJ can take this evidence and make a case fast, they can go into the Tina Peters case, preserve her evidence, and exonerate her with exculpatory evidence that shows that that hard drive that she was actually preserving was done so with the intention of showing the voter fraud, of which they've already proven through their own investigative inquiry. And then they can remove her into witness protection or under federal custody. I think that that is going to be the route that they're taking. And I think that hopefully that happens fairly soon. Donald Trump cannot pardon Tina Peters. This is a state crime. So she is charged under the state of Colorado, and the president of the United States can only pardon people through federal convictions, not state convictions. It wasn't only Tren de Aragua and cartels that entered into our country illegally and legally. There's a large legal portion of migrants that came over into our country, whether it's Dearborn in Michigan, whether it's Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have a massive influx of third world country immigrants that migrated here that Joe Biden issued just sweeping access to the United States to through the auto pen. This is now being reversed, and now we just found out that ICE has shown up to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it's getting really interesting out here listening to all this. Tom Emmer talking on this, and Tom Emmer is my congressman out here in the 6th District of Minnesota. Listen to what he says here.
I'm just grateful that you're reporting it, and the reason that it's getting reported is because Donald Trump, President Trump, finally made this a national issue when he sent out a truth a couple weeks ago. We've been trying to sound the alarm in Minnesota for more than 3 years. Everybody's focused right now on $1 billion plus in fraud that has been stolen from Minnesota taxpayers, and a lot of it allegedly has been sent to Al-Shabaab back in Somalia, a terrorist group. But you know what we're not talking about today? Do you realize that, it's not that all Somalis are committing crimes, but 80% of the crimes being committed in the Twin Cities in Minnesota are being committed by Somalis. And by the way, the FBI has been investigating Somali gangs in the Twin Cities now for months. I am grateful that President Trump has raised this to a national issue. This is it's kind of like a small version of what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were doing at our southern border for the last 4 years. Tim Walz is as corrupt as and incompetent as the day is long. You got $1 billion of fraud. You got the largest fraud case pandemic fraud case in the country.
Yeah, it's bad for Minnesota right now, especially for Governor Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison. Stephen Miller on the Somali migrants. Let's listen to this. It's probably talking about Ilham Omar.
Have as a country and achieved everything we have as a country, and somehow over 250 years we've gotten where we are today, and we've done it all without the help of Somali refugees, which is really a testament. It's a testament to our skill as Americans.
And we have.
He's not wrong. We've gotten to where we are today without the help of Somali refugees. Representative Andy Ogles just truth nuked every Democrat in America. Let's listen to this. This is more on a broad scale of the illegal immigrants, but it's well worth the listen.
One of my colleagues on the other side had the audacity to claim that Homeland Security was the biggest threat to our country and to our safety. That pisses me off. That is reckless. That is dangerous. Our border was wide open. The Biden administration was allowing us to be invaded by murderers rapists, drug traffickers, child traffickers. And if an ICE agent needs to wear a mask to protect his or her family, then so be it. Everyone who's here illegally, in my book, should be deported. Mask or no mask. They're here in violation of the law. But my colleagues on the other side, with their dangerous and feckless comments, fail to acknowledge the fact that our country is more secure today than it was previously. In fact, if you look at the trend lines for shootings against officers, they're down compared to 2023.
He's right. Illegal immigration hasn't made this country any safer. In other words, it's made it much more dangerous. And not only that, is we know that there's a hidden threat of sleeper cells, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis. We got ISIS. We got other terrorist organizations, Taliban, Al Qaeda. We have Tren de Aragua. We have cartels, all within our streets, all armed to the teeth, waiting to take down the United States of America. But Donald Trump has gone out there and he has done things internationally, which have basically put a level of neutrality on the situation to where if Hezbollah, Hamas, or Houthis, if they have an active shooter or someone gets a sleeper cell gets activated here in the United States of America, bombs are falling on Tehran. If Tren de Aragua or any of the cartels, if they have active sleeper cells in the United States to get activated, bombs are falling on Caracas. Those orders aren't going to come while the threat of their own imminent destruction is there. Then you have China. I mean, why would China do anything? All Donald Trump has to do is say 2 words and their economy begins to collapse. Paper tigers, right? Minnesota's government is the middle of one of the biggest COVID-era fraud scandals in the country. Over $300 million meant for feeding hungry kids allegedly vanished into fake nonprofits, luxury cars, and lavish lifestyles. More than 50 people have already been convicted. The state's governor, Tim Walz, is under fire for letting it all happen on his watch. But if you go to ABC, NBC, CBS, none of them are reporting on it. This is the collusion that we're seeing. You have Washington Post, you have New York Times that just came out with a hit piece against Pete Hegseth and the DOD from 5 anonymous sources, of which the Pentagon already came out and gave evidence to the contrary that contradicts what they say. This is weaponized media. This isn't government-sponsored propaganda. This is enemy-sponsored propaganda that's happening in our country. Yo, my dude. What's up, Atomic Bomb? How about this for Minnesota? And I love Focus on Minnesota because I've been asking for it. I've been saying you need to come to Minnesota. You need to investigate Minnesota. This was during the cabinet meeting yesterday.
Into Minnesota and their fraud on visas and their programs, 50% of them are fraudulent, which means that wacko Governor Walz either is an idiot or he did it on purpose. And I think he's both, sir.
50%. Listen to this. 50% of the visas are fraudulent in Minnesota. And you got to remember, this goes back to the Biden administration. President Trump destroyed Ilham Omar and illegal Somalis from the Oval Office. She'd be thrown out of this country. And I think that he's actually going to make this move to get rid of Ilham Omar and revoke her naturalization because she did it under fraudulent pretenses.
They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. that beautiful land, that beautiful state. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with, go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country, and without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon, I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable.
Now, I live in Minnesota. The truth is, yes, 80% of the crime is done by Somali. Somali gangs rule and run over Minneapolis and various St. Paul and police stations. Are most Somalis actually nice people? The ones I've met, yeah. I mean, I have not found much problem with a lot of them. But the idea is that it's not whether they're good people or not. The fact of the matter is that they came into this country. They were granted asylum or migration status visas by the Biden administration, by Governor Walz, fraudulently. They came in here, ran illicit operations to steal taxpayer monies. They immediately come here and get on public services, whether it's welfare or SNAP, so forth. So now Americans' benefits are degraded because of that. What we need to do is exactly what Donald Trump just did, is that we need to put a pause on all immigration coming into this country from third world countries. We need to reevaluate all of the visas and the naturalization statuses that have been given to migrants over the last 4 years. We have to review everyone, do background checks. We have to go out there, locate these people. We have to see if there's illicit activities or criminal connections that they have. We got to find out that if they're actually bringing a benefit to the American society, if they're actually, you know, a lot of these, and this is something that probably people don't see, is they come over here and there's networks that actually fund and pay for these people to come over here, and then they get tapped into a network. And so those government funds that they get, so when they get SNAP, food stamps, when they get welfare checks or whatever it might be, that money goes into a pot and gets redistributed to the henchmen that control these people. They are put into aspects of slave labor. That happens here in the United States. It happens here in Minnesota. Then you get dipshits like California Attorney General Rob Bonta announces a portal for people to dox and report ICE activity in order to protect the illegals in their state and prosecute ICE agents. Now, you go back to what I was talking about earlier, power and control. When you look at the deep state, which I don't look at the deep state as something globally. I think that each nation has their own deep state. I say globalist, deep state is America. But when you look at the power and control structure that they developed, illegal immigrants and fictitious migrants that came over on fake visas and so forth, this is their power base. This is their people base because they cannot substantiate that with actual Americans. They know that the majority of America is red, that if we had an election today that was free and legitimate, that a Republican would win hand over foot on every damn election out there, that Congress would be all red, that the Senate would be all red, and the presidency would be red. They can't afford that, so they have to illegally immigrate their support, and then they weaponize that support. This is what I mean. Trump is dismantling that power structure that they've created or reoriented it. This is Islam. And one part, and we talk about a lot of these Somalis. A lot of these Somalis are Islam. It doesn't mean there are bad Muslims or good Muslims. There are good Muslims. There are bad Muslims. This is the great threat, the 1,400 years of Muhammad's revolution. Migrate, replicate, eliminate. This is what they do. Listen to what is said. I believe this is Dearborn, Michigan.
Why am I migrating here? Why am I in America? The Prophet ﷺ's companions left Mecca to go to a land that had no Muslims. We are in this country purely for the sake of Allah. The moment you make this intention, you will look at things different. People will meet you different. How could it be that your co-workers know you as a Muslim for 10 years, Not once you presented Islam to them. You don't know why your purpose is here. All you guys together, we are in this country for Allah.
As we're here living in the US, what is our role now? What is the way forward? Let me just quote for you an ayah of the Quran, and I'm going to try to encapsulate it. Allah is saying, do not obey the disbelievers. Don't yield to them. And then He gives us the process of what to do next. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. And so make jihad against them.
What is your duty as a member of the Ummah now that you are also an American? It is our physical jihad duty to fight the entire earth until we enter it into the Ummah.
Talking about establishing Islam, and I think that's our jihad, to be honest. For us Muslims living in the West, yes, our jihad is to establish the deen of Allah through all means necessary.
And in that long-range process of making America Muslim, all of America Muslim.
Get the point? They are on a holy crusade. They are immigrating here for their holy crusade. Their intentions are very clear. And I don't mean all of them. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not anti-Islam. I'm anti-radical Islam. Islamism is it's like the Zionists. It's the political ideology that has wrapped up propaganda, bullshit, and psychological warfare into the aspects of how they operate. And that makes sense considering Muhammad was a feudalistic tribal leader, a warmonger. This is what they do. They migrate, they replicate, they take over, spread, and then they eliminate. And they take over that country. That's what they've done in Syria. That's what they did in Turkey. And that's what they're trying to do right here in the United States of America. And see, this is a multi-fronted battlefield. This isn't just radical Islamic immigration into the United States. This isn't just cartels and Tren de Aragua and gangs immigrating. It isn't Chinese military-age males. This is a multi-fronted battlefield that they are hitting us at all points and all times in space. That they are going after every aspect, because my true belief, this is their last chance to actually make this work. And Donald Trump has amassed significant damage to their system to the point where they have to shit or get off the pot. And they are losing. Just today, Afghan terrorists arrested today. Just miles from D.C. came in under Joe Biden. ICE arrested Jan Shah Safi, an unvetted Afghan national who provided support to the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, Khorasan, ISIS-K, also provided weapons to his father, who is a commander in the militia group in Afghanistan. The Biden administration created one of the worst national security crises in American history. Biden let into our country nearly 190,000 unvetted Afghan aliens, only determining who they were and their intentions when they were already on American soil. President Trump has been working every day since January 20th to clean up this unmitigated national security crisis. See, the Biden administration wasn't incompetent. They knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were allowing this to happen. They knew the overall plan. They understood what it would take to collapse the United States of America, to implement a new government, a new world order, a communist, global communist freaking police state. This was their intention all along. And Donald Trump put a fork in their spokes in 2016. And they needed to recompensate and come back even harder. That's what this has been about. The Trump administration has officially halted all immigration and naturalization from 19 third world countries. This is what I was talking about a minute ago. So it doesn't list the countries, or at least not in the part of the document that I'm holding right now. The memorandum mandates that all aliens meeting these criteria undergo a thorough re-review process, including a potential interview and, if necessary, re-interview to fully assess all national security and public safety threats, along with any other related grounds of inadmissibility or ineligibility. So this is huge. Effective immediately, the memorandum directs U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services personnel to place a hold on all forms I-589, place a hold on all pending benefit requests for aliens from countries listed in the Presidential Proclamation 10949, and conduct a comprehensive re-review of all approved benefit requests for aliens from countries listed in PP 10949 who entered the United States on or after January 20th, 2021. They are going back 4 years. To everybody that Joe Biden let into this country, the fictitious visas in Minnesota, that's not just Minnesota. That's New York. That's California. That is almost every state. They're going to review millions upon millions of people, and they're going to kick out the bad ones. And this is how you know that this is a deep state operation, that this is a globalist operation, that this isn't just, the radical Islam trying to take over the United States of America, or Maduro and his campaign of violence against the United States, that this is a collaborative effort, and that they even got the mainstream media. They got lefty politicians. They got the radical left in all these radical organizations that affiliate with them. That the money financing arm is the globalist bankers, the banking cartels. When ABC News publishes a hit piece like this, you know that they're in on it. You know what they're doing. This is why taking over media and information, the information war that happened from 2017 into 2024, was so important. A family of Colombian fishermen who died in the U.S. military boat strike in September has filed a formal complaint with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, alleging the U.S. government illegally killed him. Look, framing. Family of Colombian fishermen who died in the U.S. military boat strike in September has filed a formal complaint. The moment he stepped on that boat with 4 outboard motors, with a ton of cocaine and diesel fuel, and headed out to the seas, he was no longer a fisherman. He was an enemy combatant. And what do? We treat enemy combatants with MQ-9 Reaper drones and 20-pound warheads that fucking eliminate them. They can frame this in any way that they want, but this is what they're doing. This is the psychological operation. And we tend to look at these headlines and go, but that's a psychological operation. Think about normies. Think about lefties who read that. Oh my God, that poor fisherman. He was just going out there to get some tuna. He was going out there to get some bluefin or some yellowtail. Oh my God. And they bombed his boat. I mean, he just had the 4 outboard motors that go 60 knots so he can get out to his favorite fishing spot as fast as possible. I wrote a reply to Rand Paul yesterday. And one of the things I said was, in my 4 or 5 years in 3 deployments out there to the South Pacific AOR, of when we did narco-terrorist interdiction, we encountered, I think, 4 or 5 go-fast. They're actually rare to find. 4 or 5 go-fast vessels. All of them, and all in the intelligence that you learn about these things, all of them are either delivering narcotics or returning back from delivering narcotics. They are not used for fishing. You don't have 4 outboard engines. Each outboard engine costs, these are speedboat engines. They're like thousands upon thousands of dollars, like 10 grand a piece for these outboard engines. You don't have that on a fishing skiff. So why is the mainstream media construing these stories, producing psychological campaigns against the American people and lying to them with propaganda? Because they're in on it. Because they are a part of this whole coup. They are a part of this whole illicit crime organization, this global syndicate who is trying to undermine the American people, destroy the United States of America, and take down Donald Trump. The State Department renews the do not travel warning for Venezuela. Leave immediately. The United States Department of State has renewed its level 4 advisory for Venezuela, the highest warning level, urging Americans to avoid all travel there immediately. And I wanted to check something real quick. Sorry. I always hit the wrong one when I do that. All right. The warning cites wrongful detention of U.S. citizens, torture in custody, terrorism near borders, rampant kidnappings, violent crime, collapsing infrastructure, arbitrary law enforcement, protests met with tear gas and rubber bullets. The U.S. Embassy in Caracas has been closed since 2019. There are no emergency or consular services available. Americans are advised to prepare wills, obtain evacuation insurance, and avoid land borders, ATMs, and unregulated taxis. Healthcare has collapsed entirely. Extreme shortages of medicine, electricity, and clean water. Malaria and yellow fever are spreading. Fights between the U.S. and Venezuela remain banned due to safety concerns. This is a country Maduro claims is thriving under his leadership while he rotates beds nightly and uses burner phones to avoid being tracked. Well, it's going to get a lot worse for Maduro. What does Trump say?
You look over a few years, I think last year, we'll see what happens.
Mr. President, in the boat strikes, if it is found that survivors were actually killed while clinging onto that boat, should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our people by the millions, actually, if you look over a few years. I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed. That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people killed, the people that are trying to get their son or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed? I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And very soon we're going to start doing it on land too, because we know every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together, and I think you're going to see it very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
So to be clear, you
Going to start doing it on land very shortly. They just reissued the new no flight status. Could it be any day now? I think we got about 2 more days. D5 seems like a great day to start sending indictments out on the same day that you start a land invasion. Rubio floats Qatar exile for Maduro as Trump weighs strikes inside Venezuela waters. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has reportedly floated, allowing Maduro to relocate to Qatar as the gas-rich emirate helps mediate the conflict. 3 current and 2 former administration officials describe the scenario as plausible. Sources close to the administration, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE love to do stuff like this. It helps build chits with the U.S. All 3 compete against each other for the ultimate affection of the U.S. The source familiar with Qatar's role insisted it is untrue that Maduro is fleeing to Qatar. Trump spoke with Maduro last week and told him to step down immediately. Now, if you go back to last night's show, what did I tell you? I said that most likely we're going to see Maduro leave to some country that is going to extradite him immediately to the United States of America. Qatar would be one of them. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get Maduro to feel safe to leave, and then they're going to come in and grab him. Why? Because you need a cooperating witness. You got one general, now you need Nicolas Maduro. Venezuelan President Maduro says he had a conversation with President Trump about 10 days ago. Venezuela's President Maduro says steps are being taken towards a respectful dialogue between the 2 countries, and that's Qatar as the intermediary. Venezuelan caves to President Trump, resumes accepting illegal alien deportation flights from America. I just mentioned this the other day. Trump demanded Maduro not only begin accepting their illegal migrants back into their country, but also all intel pertaining to the migration potential whereabouts in the United States of America. Now, why does that matter? Well, did you see the Truth Social that Trump posted the other day? The video from 2000, I think it was 2024. I think it was 2024, where there's an overdubbing of Nicolas Maduro giving a presentation. Now, does Nicolas Maduro say those things? No, it's really a really bad mistranslation. But Donald Trump reposted this on his Truth Social. Now, why? Because you have to understand that this video is not necessarily accurate because it's a massive mistranslation, but this is what Donald Trump's actually requesting from them.
Utilizar la campaña de la administración Biden.
So basically he's saying that Maduro has given the Trump administration all of the evidence against Biden and the deep state. Now, this is what Trump is actually requesting. This is why I believe Trump posted this video. This video is not real. It's a massive I think it's AI generated. But this is what Donald Trump has actually demanded from Maduro is, hey, we're not giving you safe passage. There's no way out of this. You're fucked. The only thing that you can do right now is comply with our demands. And so is he? Well, this was literally the first indication that Maduro and his regime are capitulating to Donald Trump. They are resuming accepting illegal alien deportation flights from America. Now, what's going to go back on those flights? I can only imagine. Hopefully, intel and information. Trump orders U.S. warships to surround the narco state of Venezuela as the president holds a high-level meeting at the White House. This was earlier today. The CIA-backed Seditious Six is fuming against the war on drugs, blah, blah, blah. Now, I've said this from the get-go, that the U.S. Navy presence in the Caribbean is more of an embargo than it is anything. An embargo on Venezuela. Venezuela is an incredibly wealthy country and various rare earth minerals and metals and other natural resources, as well as oil and gas. But if they can't make money with those resources because of a U.S. embargo, if they can't illegally sell their oil underneath Western sanctions, well, they're fucked. It's only going to be a matter of time until their economy collapses. That's what Donald Trump's doing, is holding out for this. He's putting and applying the pressure directly on Maduro, his regime in Venezuela, because he knows that, number one, this is a resource war. At the end of the day, it's all about resources. And China wants the United States' resources really, really bad. They're not going to get them. But Maduro understands that once you get Machado in there, now you get British BP, Exxon, you get the British control mechanism comes in, which I don't know if the Trump administration truly understands. Machado, CIA-controlled, MI6-controlled asset. That's my perspective. But anyways, we'll see what happens with that. I know. It's crazy. It's a crazy time to be alive. But the Navy fleet out there, this isn't just about drugs. If it was, you would see an equivalent naval fleet in the Pacific. You don't. It's only in the Caribbean. Why? There's either a nuclear submarine that is a direct threat to U.S. national security and sovereignty, or it's being utilized as an embargo, or both, or there's another threat sitting in and around that area specifically that we don't know about. Now, a lot of this falls down to the Biden administration because they're the ones that opened the border, allowed for the mass immigration. They're the ones that signed massive amounts of pardons, basically getting get-out-of-jail-free cards to a lot of their cronies. Listen to what Representative Comer has to say about this. Hopefully this volume is a little bit louder too.
Not only did we depose the Biden inner circle, we also got the calendar, the emails. There were never any meetings scheduled for President Biden to review the pardon applicants. There was never a press conference by Joe Biden to explain what the executive order was or who he pardoned and why. There was no evidence that Joe Biden was involved. And what we did find was that this inner circle shielded President Biden, not only from the American people, but from his own administration. So it's about the cognitive decline of Joe Biden, the fact that his inner circle covered it up, and there was no evidence that he was involved in the decision-making process. And thus, that's why they used the auto pen so many times on legal documents, even when Merrick Garland's Department of Justice told him not to.
Wow. And look at that. Even when Merrick Garland's Department of Justice told them not to, they did it anyway. Mm-hmm. And let's listen to Donald Trump. I love it.
There's a lot of things happening right now that they don't like. One of the things is the auto pen. Everything he signed, almost, with the exception of the pardon of his wonderful son Hunter, just about everything he signed was not signed by him. He had no knowledge of it. He didn't know what it was. People sitting around the beautiful Resolute desk knew exactly what it was. And those people are guilty, in my opinion, of a major crime. everything that was signed by that auto pen, the man operating the auto pen, and I'm sure there are more than one because I think some of the people can operate it themselves, some of the high-level people operate it themselves. They would just go in and sign his name with an auto pen onto very important documents, not only pardons, but policy, maybe CAFE standards, okay, as an example. Who signed CAFE? If you ask Biden what's a CAFE standard, he would have absolutely no idea. He'd say, where is the CAFE located? The guy didn't know anything. Look.
From Donald Trump himself. Joe Biden was not in control, and they have all the evidence. Comer has proven this. We have testimony directly from Joe Biden's administration, from his cabinet members, from his staff, his former chief of staff coming out and providing sworn testimony that Joe Biden was not in control of the White House. That's why Donald Trump today again announced it. Any and all documents, proclamations, executive orders, memorandums, or contracts signed by order of the now infamous and unauthorized auto pen within the administration of Joseph R. Biden Jr. are hereby null, void, and no longer in force or effect. Anyone receiving pardons, commutations, or any other legal document so signed, please be advised that said document has been fully and completely terminated. It has no legal effect. Thank you for your attention on this matter. This is going to be huge. This is unprecedented. We've never seen this before. Guaranteed the Supreme Court's going to listen to this, but the evidence is on Trump's side with this one. Reports are saying that Senator Mark Kelly is under fire again. He apparently leaked classified portions of the Pentagon IG Signalgate findings where his party publicly attacked Hegseth. If true, his actions would constitute a violation of the Espionage Act. An internal Pentagon review would determine that Pete Hegseth's March 2025 sharing of Yemen strike information over Signal violated departmental rules but was not illegal due to his declassification authority. Sources now say Senator Mark Kelly disclosed classified elements of that IG report to Wall Street Journal while Democrat officials were publicly criticizing Hegseth. The reporter leaked raises questions about the treatment of sensitive oversight documents and the boundary between political messaging and classified materials. So think about this. During Signalgate, right, Walls and Hegseth on Signal, Hegseth puts out information on there, declassified the minute he puts it out there. Mark Kelly gets word of it, sends it to the Wall Street Journal, and then Democrats go on a propaganda campaign claiming that Hegseth put out classified information when Mark Kelly was actually the one giving the classified information to the mainstream media. Fucking mind-blowing, these people. All right, let's pay a bill real quick. Just want to see if we got anything else that popped up in here. All right, for anybody on Rumble, if you are curious in this, go ahead and go on in the Rumble and you can find this information, all the links and everything. Let's be clear, cryptocurrency is no longer emerging. It's here, and the latest move cements that reality in the biggest way yet. Trump Media Group just inked a massive $6.4 billion deal with Crypto.com, the world's top crypto platform. They're teaming up to scoop up $6.4 billion in CRO, the powerhouse token that fuels fast, low-fee DeFi staking rewards and real-world perks like cashback on your spends to launch America's first CRO treasury. When it's done, this new company will be the biggest CRO holder out there. Want in on the action? Head to Crypto.com today and grab some CRO. Let's make crypto great again. Oh, no, it's 51 in Las Vegas. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's freaking 8 degrees out in Minnesota. I'm in a garage-built studio to where it's like 34 here. Sorry if I don't feel bad for you being 51 in Vegas. I'm joking with you, buddy. Sources are saying that Brennan CIA protege Gina Haspel, along with Pompeo, Barr, Durham, and Bolton, withheld exculpatory evidence in the Russiagate hoax before the 2020 election. I will say that again. The Brennan protege, Gina Haspel, who currently still has an active security clearance, along with Pompeo, Barr, Durham, and Bolton, withheld exculpatory evidence in the Russiagate hoax before the 2020 election. You heard that right. Durham. New reports are coming out that Durham was in on it, that Durham played the game and didn't release everything. This is why he found nothing, that it was nothing more than another hoax. Representative Jim Jordan today announced that Jack Smith has been officially subpoenaed to the Committee of the Judiciary. Good. Take him down, people. NATO to spend over $1 billion per month in 2026 to supply weapons to Ukraine for its war with Russia. Now, this is interesting. This is where I get into the ideas of, Marine Corps General Smedley Butler when he said war is a racket. Donald Trump basically made a negotiation with Europe that, hey, look, you can support and sponsor Ukraine all you want, but you have to buy American armaments. The UK said, okay. And now they're going to buy $1 billion of arms around the world and give it to Ukraine per month. No American money better be going into this. That's all I have to say. This shit needs to fucking end. This is madness. And that's why we played the War Pig song earlier today. So the Promethean Action, if you guys aren't familiar with they're advocating for Trump's economic revolution, tariffs, American industry and manufacturing. Promethean Action has been around for a long time. A lot of their framing is that it's the London banking cartels, the Rothschilds, MI6 is owned and operated by them. Soros is an extension of the network. They're not wrong. They're absolutely right on all that. But a lot of the things that we are seeing right now are what I would call the old guard. That the old guard is trying to hang on to power and control, and you have the Sovereign Alliance, which is trying to go underneath them, create a new system, and take them down. I actually agree with a lot of what the Promethean Action are talking about, because it's a lot of what we actually talked about early on, about what Trump's tariffs and trade negotiations and all these deals was about undermining the London bankers, about undermining the central banking systems, the IMF, of which are controlled, even though they're in Washington, D.C., are controlled by the London bankers. That when we start talking about systems of power and control, this is the oldest system of power and control that's integrated throughout the world. And it's one of the top level security agencies, intelligence agencies out there that are integrated and have their hands in everything. They're the ones that define NGOs and think tanks as intelligence operatives. So they said today 3 nuclear superpowers just met in Moscow, and the British Empire is in full panic mode. Trump's envoy plus Putin, China's foreign minister, could equal the end of 300 years of imperial control. Now, here's another perspective I want you to take of this. I got rumor today, and it's only rumor. There's no confirmation of this information. I got rumor today. This is why we talked about the submarine and why this might be relevant soon. That in the Caribbean, there's potentially a nuclear submarine armed, or a nuclear or diesel submarine armed with nuclear warheads. And that if it's a diesel submarine, this is meant to mimic Russia. And the whole objective that Nicolas Maduro's kind of ancillary plan, their contingency plan, is to have a Russian submarine rise up and send a nuclear missile into the United States of America that's Russian, which would then get America to fight Russia. Now, a lot of people believe that this is the British Empire, the MI6 that are behind these types of actions. Would we have that amount of naval presence in that area if that was true? Yeah, we would. Is there maybe some truth to that? I think there might be. I don't have any validation of that. But it goes back to something I actually talked about before when I talked about the cyber attack on July 7th, 2025 against the DOD, against the DOJ, against our nuclear arsenal. One of the parts of that I said was that they initiated a nuclear launch and they tried to blame it on China, that they had U.S. nukes pointed towards China. They're trying to instigate a nuclear war with another superpower. I want you to see that this move right now with Kushner and Wyckoff in Russia at the same time that China's second premier foreign minister is in Russia, that I don't think that this was a coincidence. I don't think it was China flexing their muscles to the United States of America, like we're meeting with Russia about defense and you're meeting with them about negotiated a war truce. I think it was the three sovereign nations, the sovereign alliance, coming together and saying, there's a nuclear sub in the Caribbean. They got nuclear missiles. They're going to try to blame it on one of us to cause us to have a nuclear weapon. It's not ours. I think it was kind of one of those discussions, kind of a sum of all fears type of a discussion, if you want to think about it. Is that important? I think it is. I think that Promethean Action is absolutely right that what happened in Russia yesterday was more about China, Russia, and the United States meeting clandestinely outside of global kind of observation. And interesting enough, this was pretty crazy. For the first time since its creation, Secretary Rubio, the United States is forging ahead with a new G20. South Africa operated with spite, division, and radical agendas that failed to produce economic growth. America's G20 will propel us forward with innovation, entrepreneurship, and perseverance that makes America great and provides for a prosperous future. Now, what did he say? The United States is kicking. Well, so the United States next year is hosting the G20 in Miami. It just was in South Africa. And they did not extend an invite to South Africa. They kicked South Africa out of the G20, and they're actually extending an invite to Poland instead, which I think is pretty huge. But it shows you the shifting tides of kind of geopolitical power globally. So, yeah, the other day during the cabinet meeting, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles got a round of applause after being praised by President Trump as fantastic and amazing. I don't think he's hearing what we're saying, or maybe he is. But I think that he's calling her out like that at the cabinet meeting because this is going to be her last cabinet meeting. This is what I think. I think that Susie Wiles is most likely on her way out. I think that it's not going to be she's fired. I think that she's going to just come out and have some personal things going on. She needs to step away. It's going to be very cordial. And then we're going to have someone else come in. I think that this is going to happen within the next probably 60 days. All right, what do we got? I wanted to go into this yet. Nope, not that. All right, the Federal Reserve just pumped $13.5 billion into the U.S. banking system through overnight repos. This is the second largest liquidity injection since COVID and surpasses even the peak of the dot-com bubble. Why is this important? Because we are in a liquidity crisis globally. The majority of the markets that are held up globally are done through basically marginalized money, money that is loaned on collateral. In other words, credit. It's fake money. If everybody cashed out all their stocks and their bonds and all of their cryptocurrency today, there's not enough money to pay all these people back. That's what we call a bubble. There's no liquidity. And so you have central banks that have to inject liquidity in order to sustain market integrity. I think that what we're seeing is a slow deflation of the markets with the Trump administration while a new parallel system is rising up. Now, what is going to be the marker for that new economic system? Here's 42 seconds that'll give you a very big hint of what we're in store for over the next 24 months.
I'm super excited about the robots Elon's working on. It's still a few years away. When it happens, there's a whole new industry of technicians and people who have to manufacture the robots, right? Mm-hmm. And so that job never existed. And so you're going to have a whole industry of people taking care of, like, for example, all the mechanics and all the people who are building things for cars, supercharging cars. That didn't exist before cars, and now we're going to have robots. You're going to have robot apparels. So a whole industry of, right? Isn't that right? Because I want my robot to look different than your robot. Oh, God. And so you're gonna have a whole, apparel industry for robots.
It might be funny, but he's right. We have emerging markets that have never been seen before that are going to bring about massive capitalization within the markets. At the same time, we have a transitionary nature of how money is being created, handled, stored, and invested. Things like the Sovereign Wealth Fund and Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, moving the US dollar to a digital counterpart that is commercially funded but is backed upon gold, silver, the assets of the United States of America, natural resources, and structured through the sovereign wealth fund. We have corporations and companies and patents that are being given percentage basis to the United States of America's people that we put into the sovereign wealth fund. $40 billion in 3 months is what the United States of America has earned with 10% ownership of Intel. This is going to completely change our whole financial infrastructure, how things are done globally. We have to understand that it's these emerging markets that are going to give birth to exactly this type of economic system. And so at the same time that that's rising up, the old system is deflating and dying. Kirill Dmitriev, he posted this yesterday, the Putin-Trump tunnel. He put out a short little video about it, about how what happens if there is a tunnel, a bridge tunnel between Alaska and Russia. I think that it's a great idea, and I think that we actually will probably see something like this be announced within the next 6 months. At least that's the rumors that I'm getting. All right. What else we got? Anything else? I don't think there's anything of issue. I want to check Rumble real quick. I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't paying attention much to the chats today. I appreciate you guys. All of the Rumble chats that came in. You guys are rocking and rolling. Make sure you're hitting that like button. We're only at 371, and we got almost 2,000 people watching. If you guys can go out there, if all 1,700 of you guys on Rumble can hit that like button, that'd be amazing. Boom Diggity gifted 10 subscriptions to the Red Pill Project. Thank you so much, Boom Diggity. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And starting, I believe, next week, we're going to be doing premium content, me and Alpha. So new shows coming out with premium content. Me and Alpha are getting all that set up right now. Megan Nuke gifted 5 subscriptions to the Red Pill Project on Rumble. Thank you so much, Megan Nuke. Appreciate you, brother. And scrolling down to see if there's anything else. A lot of the Rumble rants disappeared. But if there's 1,700 guys, come on, let's go. Let's get 1,700 likes if we can get that on Rumble. Man, you guys are chatting up a storm tonight. Just kind of going through this. As a reminder, tomorrow night is our live Q&A after the show. So if you are interested in taking part in that live Q&A after the show, you just got to be a premium member on any of our channels, whether it's X, Substack, Social, Red Pill, or Locals. So make sure that you are absolutely signed up over there. I didn't put all my stuff up tonight. Let me see. Yeah, you can actually, there you go. So right there, X, Social Red Pill, X.com, Social Red Pill, redpillproject.substack.com, or redpillproject.locals.com. That's tomorrow night. But make sure that you are a member over there if you want to get into that Q&A. And then also, if you guys like my music, and we're going to play a song here in a second, redpillsmusic.com, redpillsmusic.com. And again, go on over that Substack, subscribe over there, even if it's just for free. It does help us. And we do have some more content coming out relatively soon with our Substack. It's just so hard to write things when you're always doing this thing. But I will be back with you tomorrow. I think I got, I might be with Scott McKay tomorrow, Jaco Scott McKay. And then Friday, definitely going to be a show. And then Saturday, I got another show. So I'm going to be busy the next few days, but I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you for all of the chats tonight. Thanks for all the subscriptions and the rants and all the donations and Pilled and D Live with the lemons. You guys are amazing. I appreciate you more than you understand. Also, if you guys ever need to contact me, best way to contact me, Redpills TV, REDPILS TV at gmail.com. Throw me an email or hit me up at redpills.tv. You can find me there. Much love, respect. God bless. Have a great night. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a life's prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!